Ever dreamt of lakeside living? Picture this. Charming cottages, sparkling water, maybe even a dock for your kayak. Sounds idyllic, right?
Absolutely.
Well, today's deep dive takes us to Wonder Lake, Illinois, where we're tackling the big question on everyone's mind. Is this real estate market about to make a splash for buyers?
Ooh, good question.
We're dissecting the August 2024 market report, hot off the digital press from Michael Linton over at chicagodealflow.com. We've got the numbers, the trends, and the inside scoop to help you navigate this exciting and potentially shifting market.
And let me tell you, there are some really interesting dynamics at play here. We're seeing what looks like a classic seller's market, but some key figures suggest things might be loosening up a bit. It's a fascinating time to be following Wonder Lake real estate.
Okay, let's unpack this. The report kicks off with months supply of inventory, currently sitting at 2.8 months. For those new to this metric, what does that actually tell us about Wonder Lake?
So that's a really good question. It's a measure of how long it would take to sell all the current listings if no new properties came on the market.
Okay.
In Wonder Lake's case, 2.8 months means houses are selling pretty darn fast. We're definitely still in seller's market territory.
So good news for anyone thinking of selling their lakeside retreat, but what does this mean for those hoping to buy in Wonder Lake?
It means competition is fierce. Low inventory often leads to, multiple offers, potentially driving prices up even higher. Buyers need to be ready to act quickly and strategically.
We're talking pre-approvals, knowing your must-haves, maybe even scoping out mortgage pre-underwriting to make your offer stand out. This isn't the market for casual browsing, right?
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. The report also highlights a pretty significant jump in inventory compared to last year, up a whopping 43.59%.
Okay, so almost 44% more houses on the market this year. That's a big deal. Does this change the game for buyers? Are we moving towards a more balanced market?
It's a sign that things could be shifting. While still a seller's market, this increase in inventory might give buyers a little more breathing room than they had last year.
So not quite a buyer's market yet, but maybe a bit more wiggle room for negotiation, a wider variety of properties to consider. It's like that moment when a new restaurant opens up in a neighborhood packed with only pizza places. Suddenly, you've got options.
Laughs.
Uh,
I like the analogy. And speaking of options, this increase in inventory makes me wonder, what's driving this trend? Is it simply a seasonal fluctuation, or are there other factors at play in Wonder Lake?
Ooh, good question. We'll definitely circle back to that. But first, let's talk about another number that really stood out to me, the median days on market. The report says it's a mere 25 days. Wow, 25 days. That's like the blink of an eye in real estate years.
It is incredibly fast-paced. Even for a desirable location like Wonder Lake, this tells us that well-priced properties are practically getting snapped up overnight.
So this isn't the time for fence sitting. If you're a buyer, you need to be ready to make a move the second you find the one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the importance of being pre-approved for a mortgage. Having your finances in order can be the difference between getting your dream home and losing out to a more prepared buyer.
Yeah, it's like speed dating, but for houses, you got to be ready to commit.
That's a great way to put it. And this brings us to another interesting data point. The list-to-sold price percentage is currently at 99.7%.
So basically, houses are selling for almost exactly their asking price. No low-ball offers here.
Right. It really speaks to the competitive landscape. With inventory still relatively low, even with that increase we talked about, buyers are often willing to pay top dollar to secure their slice of Wonder Lake.
And I bet there are some interesting stories behind those numbers. Have you heard of any recent sales that really exemplify this trend?
Yeah, I was recently speaking with a colleague who told me about this really charming three-bedroom cottage right on the lake that went on the market and received multiple offers within the first 48 hours. The sellers ended up accepting an offer well above asking price.
Wow, that's incredible. Talk about a seller's market. But it makes me think back to that increase in inventory. It's almost like a tug of war is happening between buyers and sellers.
Precisely. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming months.
Yep.
Will the increase in inventory eventually tip the scales in favor of buyers? Or will Wonder Lake's desirability continue to drive up demand and prices?
It's a real estate cliffhanger. Now, I know we're dying to know what a typical Wonder Lake home actually costs these days. The report mentions a median sold price of $291,995. Let's break that down. $291,995. That's a good starting point for anyone trying to figure out if Wonder Lake is within their budget, right? It's not just about that number, though, right? It's about what that number buys you in Wonder Lake.
Absolutely. It's a snapshot of the current market.
Ah.
But it's important to remember that every property is unique. You've got to factor in location, size, amenities, and condition to get a truly accurate picture.
That's the beauty of real estate. It's not just math, it's about finding the perfect fit for your lifestyle. And we've covered a lot of ground today, so what's the takeaway for our listener who's been soaking up all this Wonder Lake intel?
Well, if I were advising someone who's looking to buy or sell in Wonder Lake right now, I'd say be prepared, be informed, and be ready to act decisively.
Solid advice. And remember, our listener, you can find the full Wonder Lake Real Estate Market Report along with Michael Linton's contact info right there in the episode notes. He's ready to answer all your questions and offer personalized guidance.
He's a great resource for anyone serious about making a move in Wonder Lake.
Okay, before we close out, let's indulge in our traditional closing thought. We've talked about the numbers, the trends, the market dynamics, but what about the heart of Wonder Lake?
Oh, you're leading us into fascinating territory.
What if this increase in inventory isn't just about market forces? Maybe it's a sign that Wonder Lake is having a moment. Maybe there's like a new energy in the air, a sense of community that's attracting people beyond just the real estate.
You've got me thinking. What is the buzz around Wonder Lake these days? Are there any exciting new developments or events happening that could explain this shift?
That's something to consider as you explore Wonder Lake. Don't just look at the numbers, look at the heart and soul of the community. Maybe the real estate market is reflecting a deeper change in the town's character.
A very insightful point.
And that, dear listener, is the beauty of a deep dive. It's not just about the facts, but about the stories behind them. So as you continue your own explorations of Wonder Lake, remember to go beyond the data and discover the heart of this charming town. Until next time, happy house hunting.